Welcome to the Friday edition of The World Today. I am Amarachi Ubani. United States has discovered another case of the Ebola virus disease, this time in New York, where a doctor who recently returned from Guinea in West Africa tested positive for the disease. Dr. Craig Spencer, who treated Ebola patients while working for the charity Médecins Sans Frontières, came down with a fever on Thursday, just days after his return. He's the first Ebola case diagnosed in New York and the fourth in the United States.
Fresh fears of contacting the Ebola virus is spreading in New York, where a doctor who returned from West Africa recently tested positive. 33-year-old Craig Spencer is currently under observation at the city's Bellevue Hospital. Spencer had his temperature taken twice a day since coming home from Guinea and showed no abnormalities. He first developed symptoms including fever on Thursday morning and then was taken to the hospital.
When he reported fever, he contacted the health department. We contacted EMS, and he was brought to Bellevue Hospital. The test for Ebola was conducted on blood drawn here at Bellevue Hospital and conducted at our public health lab.
Mayor Bill de Blasio tried to allay the public's fear.
Today, testing confirmed that a patient here in New York City had tested positive for Ebola. The patient is now here in Bellevue Hospital. We want to state at the outset there is no reason for New Yorkers to be alarmed.
But the Harlem neighbors of the patient had different views on the risks an Ebola case in their midst will pose to them.
I'm not that bothered. I feel like a lot of people, there's a lot of hype around it. I wash my hands. I don't get exposed to blood or sweat often or feces, which is how you catch Ebola. So I'm not really that worried. It's just kind of crazy that it's happening on my block, but no, I hope the person's okay. I hope everything works out.
I'm extremely disappointed. I mean, I am a little surprised because I just expect more of this country. We're supposed to be a first world country. If, like I said, if Nigeria can have it under control, why can't the United States?
Now, the spread of Ebola, which has killed nearly 4,900 people, largely in Liberia, Sierra Leone and Guinea, have mounted since the first person diagnosed with the disease in the United States, a Liberian man who had flown to Texas, was hospitalized in Dallas last month. The man, Thomas Eric Duncan, died on October 8, and 2 nurses who treated him became infected with the virus. A task force has been set up following missteps in handling the case.
We have the Voice of America's correspondent in New York, Sayla Mendoza, who's at the Columbia Presbyterian Hospital, where Dr. Craig is being treated for the Ebola virus disease. Sayla, thank you so much for joining us on The World Today.
Thank you very much.
So what more do we know about Dr. Craig and his movement from Guinea? Was he involved with taking care of Ebola patients in Guinea?
Yes, indeed he was. According to the information that we got from the authorities here in New York, he was there with doctors with our voters treating Ebola patients in Guinea and returned to the United States on October 17 after leaving Guinea on October 14. He did not have any sort of symptoms until yesterday, Thursday morning, when he reported fever and also gastrointestinal issues. Now, on Tuesday, he didn't feel too good, but it was not a fever present. That's why authorities said that he went about his business, trying to limit contact with people, but still he went into 3 subway trains, and also on Wednesday night, he went to a bowling alley in Brooklyn, and everybody that was in contact with him to this point, 4 people are in quarantine, his fiance, 2 close friends, and a driver who drove him home on Wednesday night.
And the hospital that Dr. Craig is being treated in, how well equipped are they to handle a case like this? Because this would be their first case of Ebola virus disease that they'll be handling, right?
Correct. This is the first case in New York. Bellevue Hospital is the hospital that has been established by authorities in New York as the go-to location for anybody who presents any sort of symptoms or that is believed to have Ebola. We understand that they have been preparing for months. Just weeks ago, they had a drill where they let media come in, check their procedures, how the doctors are dressed, and that's one of the biggest concerns, especially after what happened in Texas, where 2 nurses got contaminated after treating the patient there. Now, we know that they are very confident. The governor of New York expressed yesterday that they moved quickly. Actually, when they went to pick him up, the ambulance workers were in hazmat suits, as well as the patient. When he called the authorities, he put on a hazmat suit to protect everybody that came in contact with him.
Saina, just one more question. What about his neighbors? I mean, he came back home. Of course, the list grows longer, the number of people he may have had contact with. You did mention his fiancée and then 2 other people. But there has to be a wider list, right? Because he must have had contact with other people. Are there plans to get in touch with these other people that he may have had contacts with, those he ran along with on the bus and those who were on the airplane with him and so on?
At this point, the authorities have said that they are trying to go step by step, pretty much retrack everything he did, who he had contact with, and anybody that probably saw him and touched him. But what they are saying, and this is something they had stressed a lot, is that nobody is going to get the disease just because they breathe the same air where he was or because they were around him. Fluids have to be exchanged, and that's the main reason they are saying that people should not be in panic. However, it is important, and they have said that it's important that people that had contact with him just take precautions, quarantine themselves, let the authorities know if they had contact with him, and be aware of any symptoms if they develop.
Thanks a lot, Saila Mendoza, the VOA correspondent in New York. We really do appreciate your reporting from the hospital where Dr. Craig is being treated for the Ebola virus disease.